What's up, guys? We are back. It's a Sunday. John Della Rose here, the leading Hispanic voice in science fiction. Hopefully, I can articulate properly. I had about a half a bottle of champagne over brunch today. It's a beautiful day out, sunny. It's my sister's birthday, so wanted to celebrate with her and have a good day. But I also need to get a video out, just talk about a little bit of writing process so that you guys can get a little better of idea of what's going on. The Stars Entwined was my first space opera. You might have heard of it, you might have not. I don't promote it as much because on the promotion end, Amazon-wise, it makes a lot more sense to promote something with a long series because there's a lot of books for people to buy on the back end as they go through and read than it is to promote a single book. Now, this wasn't intended to be a single book, but when For Steaming Country really took off, it just outpaced this one in sales so much. I really had to focus on getting that series built up and put this on the back burner for a while. But The Stars Entwined is a space opera universe I designed over a lot of years. It took me about 20 years to do. And at first, I didn't know what I was doing. And I want to help out aspiring writers and things like that because the Amazon market really, as I mentioned, is geared towards series. It's geared towards expanding characters that you love. It's geared towards expanding worlds that you love so that you see it over and over again. It becomes a repetitive thing, something familiar that you can come back to. And that is where the sales are at. You really don't do a lot these days on sales of single books. When you get those, I mean, they're few and far between compared to what happens when you get series. It's because people love to binge content these days. It's like this on Netflix. It's like this on anything else. And that's why series do so much better in every medium at this point than individual movies, individual, films, individual comics, individual books. You have to have this series in order to get going. And it works even better when you've got multiple series that kind of expand upon the same things. And so what happened when I built The Stars Entwined, I kind of had this in mind from the get-go. And I was inspired a lot by Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere universe because Brandon Sanderson actually did something pretty neat with his fantasy world where each one of them got these shards of something where they all connected together, and he's going to have a book eventually that connects them all together. And he's got a mystery building through them. So you are encouraged to read across all the series of different universes because they all operate within the same major universe. And that's kind of what I wanted to do with a space opera. What I saw out of Star Trek is that, you've got Deep Space Nine, you've got Voyager, you've got Next Generation. They've all kind of got their own ships in different areas, and they're doing their own thing. They've got their own plot lines, and yet they kind of have a world that, one impacts the other a little bit. And that's really neat to watch. And I wanted to create something very similar because I thought that would be cool from a storytelling perspective, keep everything very interesting, doing something different yet the same. But I also thought it'd be good for the reader end. And this is something that's a big deal for series readers in general, where they will definitely want this. And so with The Stars Entwined, I actually went in and I wrote the book, and then I scrapped the book originally, came back, wrote a whole world Bible about the aliens being around. There's aliens that aren't even appearing in The Stars Entwined that I've actually wrote down. They exist in the universe. I built the universe out to such a degree that it would be compelling for everybody. And this is what people need to do for books. And something that needs to be done is all that legwork, of course, 20, 30 pages of notes on the history of what's going on for a sci-fi universe or a fantasy universe, the different worlds, the different starship technologies, the different alien races. You have to think of all of these different things, and you want to build this in great detail so that when things come up in the story, they feel natural, like they're supposed to be there because you already are an expert in them. And the more you convince the reader that you are an expert in them, the more that you have those really deep dive details, the more that the reader gets immersed in a project. And so it's good to have this, even if you're just intending on one story. But when you have all that built, you might as well use it for other stories also, because that's what happens is people like these series, like these expansions and all that. So The Stars Entwined has all this. It has this deep backdrop of this, of course, a war that's building between the Oritian people and the humans. But it's also got different book characters called the Draenites. They're just referenced a couple times. The Psi, they're also just referenced a couple times. And I've started to write a book about the Draenites, and so you'll see them in a different book. The Psi are going to come later because I've got something I'm building up towards. Spoiler alert. But that's just something to look for. I've also got characters that are layered into the background of the Stars Entwined. I've got a one-liner about a guy on Earth who's a governor of North America, and I intended this from a long time ago because I wrote the Stars Entwined so long ago, but I kept an idea in the back of my head for another book. And the guy who's the governor of North America is going to be launching his own colony, getting away from this Earth war, uh, uh, building a new humanity. And this is the whole premise of this book. So while these two books have really very little in common in terms of what they're about, who the character perspectives are, what the threats are, and all of that, they do tie in together. Now, I do say there are some instances where the Eurasian War hits on different levels in Colony Launch also. So if you have that little background, you're going to enjoy this a lot more. But it's pretty standalone, and yet it's set within the same universe. And so building out these two different books, what it's done, because they've got such wildly different perspectives, they're in wildly different areas, it's created a really deep, rich universe, much like you get, again, with like something like Star Trek The Next Generation or Star Trek Deep Space Nine. They both are set within the Federation, but they're in such wildly different areas, and they focus on wildly different things that they really have their own thing, and they add to the greater world building. This is something you should keep cognizant of as you're building books, because as you do this, these mysteries that open up, the details that open up, readers will get very engaged with and very much enjoy when they see these sorts of things paying off in different books. So I'm trying to do that. I think that's a very important part of novel writing right now. Whether you launch 2 book ones, I don't recommend doing this, honestly, because I think it, as it goes, you should probably at least get a trilogy out or 4 books out before you even put another book out. That's something on the side. But when you get into different things and you want to experiment artistically and all that, it helps to have these ideas in mind, the world rules in mind, a nice chart or document that you can look at in order to know what's going on, so that you can keep everything consistent. Because what the readers are going to look for is that consistency. They're going to look for that level of detail, and that is something that just sets apart better books from ones that aren't as interesting. All right, guys, I hope that's interesting for you. Colony Launch is going to launch on Tuesday. Again, it's about launching a colony. And we have that one character from that's just referenced once in the Stars Entwined, just in one line, and he becomes the main character of his own story and builds a whole world around this, literally. And it's going to be a lot of fun if you love science fiction and you love just classic heroes who are just like looking to the stars, trying to do something new, trying to do something innovative, and trying to build a better humanity. This book's going to be for you. If you appreciate the advice, hit the like and subscribe button. I will try to do more of these. Just try to give a little insight into the background of everything I do, because I think even if you aren't paying attention to these books specifically, the basic ideas will help anybody who's looking to write something compelling in science fiction also. I will talk to you guys soon, and have a great day.